Well, last time you were here, we had you in back in, I think, June, and blew up. People like hearing from you because people hadn't really heard from you in a while. And one of the things that I was kicking myself that we didn't get to, that I knew we could touch a little bit on camera, but we didn't get to it because you had to catch a flight, was some of the bullshit you dealt with about 8-9 years ago. So I wanted to make sure we got to that right at the beginning today so that you could talk about it a little bit. But essentially, and again, people are going to have to understand some things legally. You know, there's things signed you can't talk about. But essentially, you know, you had this long, amazing career that you outlined in our last episode, and you did a lot of years in the military, but then did around a decade in Ground Branch, which is basically an off-record CIA kill team, if that's what you want to call it. And after doing that, you went and starred on Dual Survival, which was a show on Discovery Channel. You were excellent in that. Obviously, it's exactly what it sounds like. You'd be dropped in these crazy places, and you'd have to figure out how basically you're gonna survive and live off the land. And so I think that was about 4 years you were on that show, give or take?
Yeah, I did 4 seasons.
Okay. What ended it was when you had a nasty-ass campaign run against you online where people, I'll just say who you know, were behind some blank accounts spreading rumors that then these rumors, which were ridiculous, that ranged from everything from, I think they even accused you of murder and stuff at some point, some crazy shit. Accused some stuff, called your mom names, awful things as well, like just terrible things. And it was not vetted by the public, and so people ran with these stories about you, and for a while there, it ruined your life. And you eventually had to bring, and I'm doing a lot of talking right here because Joe can't, in case you haven't caught that drift. But eventually, you had to file a serious lawsuit, pay all the money out of your pocket. I'm not going to say who it was against, but we'll say it was at least against the people who were perpetrating this. And I will leave it here. You won out of court on that. And it still, I mean, we all know lawyers' fees. We all know what that was and everything. But what pissed me off about this is I hate it when I see the military eat their own. And for a guy like you who had given his life to the country, in my opinion, and who had done some crazy things that most people never get to do because, frankly, they're not qualified to do it. Shut your mouth, did your work, and could be ruined like that by people from behind a keyboard. I don't accept that. I think that's crazy. And I will tell you, I had a lot of military people in my DMs when you would come on. And again, I was kicking myself for not having talked about this on the podcast. But I gave it right back to them. And I got to be honest, to their credit, a lot of people shut the fuck up. Once I went through what really went on here, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So that's kind of me laying the groundwork. But if there's anything you are able to say, because again, there are some legal documents that were signed for confidentiality when you settle out of court and stuff. But if there's things you'd like to add, I'd definitely like to give you that chance at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah. So the very long story short of it was when I first got on Dual Survival, some things started coming out online about me that were very detrimental. And it ranged from, like you just said, that I was a convicted felon, I was a murderer and a rapist. I mean, pretty much everything you could call somebody from a felon standpoint, I was called. I was also being told that people were saying that I was kicked out of the Marines, I was kicked out of the Army, and dishonorable discharge, and all this just awful things. Very hurtful. At first, it made me angry, but then it turned into hurtfulness because it all started from one individual that I was actually really good friends with. And I guess what I'd like to just say to the people that are listening is this. One, I was forced to file a lawsuit. I tried to talk to these individuals and say, hey, look, why are you doing this? let's talk about this like adult human beings, right? And the more I tried to talk to them about it, the more infuriated they got. Which to this day, I just can't quite wrap my head around it.
Do you think they just went like crazy, or?
Well, one person started the whole thing, and what I'd like to say about when it comes to money and the little fame that I had, notoriety, all of that stuff, it's a drug to some people. And what I mean by that is if you have like a narcissistic personality or something, that's like pure cocaine to people like that.
Yeah.
So, and then you add some jealousy, the worst of human emotions, add that into the mix. And that's what happened. And it was a combination of all these things. And I really tried to avoid the lawsuit, because if anybody has been in a lawsuit, it is literally like walking through hell. Knowing that you're going to come out the victor. I mean, even when I showed my attorney what was going on, he's like, I've never seen anything like this before. And he says, this is pretty much a slam dunk. Of course, attorneys can't say, oh, you're going to win. Right. Of course they can't. But when they say this is a slam dunk, and it was, like just saying, for example, that I'm a convicted felon. Well, that's pretty easy to prove that I'm not. All you got to do is pull up my NCIC report. Right. I've got driving with expired tags, et cetera, speeding, but, murder. I mean, come on. And it's just, the sad thing is, Julian, is the thing that hurts me even to this day is a person that actually really believes that. Like, how could you believe that I'm even walking around and not in jail, for starters? Yeah. Like, okay, let's just go there for now. And of course, people out there were saying, well, no joke, dude. I have the screenshots that I paid off the judges. Let me tell you something. Elon Musk don't have enough money to pay all that crap off. Yeah. But anyway, that's what they were saying. And can you believe people believe that?
Yes, I can. Haven't seen the internet and how it behaves. I can see how people would run with those things. I mean, Alessi and I have witnessed it in this studio with the types of things people will run with. Yeah.
But anyway, I tried to avoid it. I didn't want to go down that road, but it got to a point where it was getting to critical mass, and it had cost me some contracts and some endorsements. And I spoke to my family and my friends, and they're like, look, you have no choice but to do this right now. So I filed a lawsuit, and I'm not going to get into details about it. All I can tell you is they settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money.
They didn't have a ton of money, that person.
I don't know their financials. It was several individuals, but let me just say this. If you were to put $20 million on the table and said, here's $20 million bucks, but for that $20 million, this is what you're going to go through for the next 2 years, I'd have been like, you can stick that where the sun don't shine. Yeah. That's how bad it was. And, it took a physical toll on me. It took an emotional toll on me. It was a very dark part of my life, because just like you said, this didn't come out of the blue from some idiot that I didn't know, and it's true. And I don't mean to say this in a disparaging way, but unfortunately I've seen it before. Yeah. The special operations community at times eats their own. Yes. And I can give you examples. I'm not, but they're pretty easy to find. Guys that work together, they turn on each other. I'm sure you've even interviewed people, and these are good
off
people.
Camera, a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And it boils down to, in my opinion, jealousy, some narcissism, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, but yeah, man, it was an awful time. And for those of you who are listening, I challenge you, I think you can spend $20 or $25 and you can do a background check on someone. If you're a convicted felon, it's out there. Okay. Yes. Please do so.
It wasn't even creative, some of the stuff they came up with.
Oh, no.
This is like...
But wait, hold on a second. It was actually very creative.
No, I'm talking like the stuff, murder, when you're doing that. But the other stuff, talk about this.
Yeah,
if you can.
and it went into my military career that I had forged my DD-214s and and then I was dishonorably discharged.
What's
a
a DD-214?
It's where all it's basically your discharge paperwork. It shows the unit you were in, the dates of service, schools you've been to, your discharge, whether it was honorable, dishonorable, medals and awards and all that stuff. And so the big thing, here was the big thing. The big thing that these individuals were accusing me of was stolen valor. Okay?
Yeah.
Stolen valor, and again, don't take my word for it. Google it.
Can you point the mic up at you a little more? Sorry.
Stolen valor is when a person says they've got, and it's a list of awards like Medal of Honor, Navy Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, saying you have one of those when you don't, and you actually use it to like monetize yourself. Or you're just guys, let me just tell you right now, I don't have medals. I have the been there, done that medals, but I don't have a Bronze Star or Silver Star. I was never in combat in the military, and we talked about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything
don't have any.
afterwards.
Don't have any.
Yeah.
So everybody listen. Okay. I don't have medals from being in combat, but that's what they were saying. That I was a stolen valor. That is a complete and utter lie.
For people really quickly who haven't heard you speak before and don't know your background, can you just explain how you went to CIA Ground Branch and what that is? Meaning, like, it's not on the record,
right?
Per se.
So I was in the Marines and the Army, and so of course, when you're in the military, you do get awards if you deserve them, whether it's a Good Conduct Medal or Bronze Star, Silver Star, whatever, right? So you get medals in the military. When I was recruited for Ground Branch, I was contacted by the recruiter, met him, and we talked about this in the last.
Yeah, you don't have to tell the whole thing, but
and went through the whole process. Did the polygraph and everything, and made it through the operator's course. Went through a 6-month and 2-week operator course, and then came out the other end and was operational. But basically, Ground Branch is when I was in, they called it SAD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Special Activities Division. Now I believe they call it the SAC, Special Activities Center. I may be wrong, but when I was there, it was the Special Activities Division, Special Operations Group. And it's basically the CIA's paramilitary arm that conducts covert action.
It's the goodbye team.
Well, but Julian, understand something. The idea doing that kind of work is to capture people, to get them to talk. Mm-hmm. So they talk about this. Okay, well, we know where this guy's at, and you connect the dots. Now we know where this. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard talking with a hole in your head. So the whole idea.
But let's be fair. It's both.
If they fight back, sure, it sure is. Yeah, of course. You're not going to put your team at risk. Yeah, if they fight back, they're gonna get what's coming to them. But the idea is normally to try to capture these people, right, and to get intel from them. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But anyway, the SAD is the action arm of the agency. It's very, very small. People have asked me, well, how many guys are there? Well, I had the balls enough to ask one time. And I asked one of the case officers that was attached to Ground Branch, very smart guy, been there for a long time. And he said, I'll just say less than 100. That's what he said. And he wouldn't even tell me.
Very exclusive.
Less than 100.
Yeah.
It's very small. But with being that small, what you have is a very nimble, quickly deployed, unit that doesn't have to deal with the bureaucracies and the chain of command that you would have in a military soft unit, right? They don't fall under the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They don't fall under the Geneva Convention. It's not a military unit. It's comprised of former military guys, former Tier 1 guys and Tier 2 guys and whatnot. But when I say they don't play by any rules, that is kind of correct. Of course, there's rules to everything, but the rules that they play by, if you were to apply that to the military, you would be in a world of trouble. Because you're dealing with what's called Title 50 which is a U.S. code that that granted power to the CIA to conduct covert action on the behalf of the United States government. And covert action by nature and by definition is any operation that the United States does not want to have a hand in.
Right.
So you have that plausible deniability. It's very tough to do that with a military soft unit because it's such a, when you do operations, like when a tier 1 unit does operations, right? Whether it's Delta or SEAL Team 6, they've got huge air assets packages. They have AC-130s and DAPs and QRFs and big signature, right? And rightly so. You got to protect your guys. But when it comes to what I used to do, that even though they had all the money in the world, right? The agency's got billions of dollars.
You don't say.
Yeah, they do. They took that signature and went and just shrunk it down to nothing.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
So, for example, if you and I were going to hit a compound and we get into a really bad situation, there's no calling in an AC-130 to drop a 105 to save our bacon. There's no QRF. There's no DAPs flying in. There's no nothing. You fight your way in, you fight your way out. And I've talked to guys in the soft community and like, that's bullshit. Well, not really. If you know the rules of the game going into the game, you have every right to say, you know what, I don't want to do this. And I have met guys that I would have never worked there. Never. And I get it because, you want that support. That protects your guys. But unfortunately, it's not something that they can afford to do to keep that plausible deniability down. Because all it takes is one American helicopter to get shot down somewhere. Like, now who are all these people here? Like,
yes.
What do you do?
And this is at the heart of the issue for you, because what you are is you're officially unofficial, right? So when people were causing all these problems online that led to all this stuff, they're pointing at your military career, which, as you already laid out in the last episode, you spent, I think it was 12 or 13 years, Army and Marines.
Approximately.
Right? Okay. And in that time, you didn't see combat, which made you very surprised when you were then recruited to Ground Branch, where you spent a decade and saw a lot of combat.
Right.
But because that's the part that it's officially unofficial, people can just try to point to your career and say, well, this guy never saw combat or something, and then try to lead with claims on that. And we even saw, and we've used it a few times, but the term "eat your own," we've seen, this is the ultimate case of that, because you saw it with you getting kicked out of the Special Forces Association, all that. It's real. It's very, very sad to me. And so I was honored that after years of you mostly sitting on the sidelines, conducting your business, doing your thing down in North Carolina, you came on and were open about your career with us in the last episode, and I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that we have got this thing to a point where we can give something like that a platform, and we can hear from the man himself to actually get him to describe exactly what this was and how it happened. And again, you can't go into all the details. That is how it is. But I really appreciate you being open about it and run through it.
I mean, it's, of course it's embarrassing and it's hurtful. Yeah. That individuals would go to the level that they did. For example, one of the things I was getting hammered on is I was calling myself a combat veteran, right? And they're like, well, you can't call yourself a combat veteran unless you were in the military. And so I said, okay, fine. I was doing direct action combat operations. What am I supposed to call myself? A combat, I was saying something like a combat contractor or something like what do you want me to say? And it made some people irate. Yeah. And I said, fine. And guys can go online and look, I said it a million times. I was not in the military doing what I was doing. And I had pictures of online of me being downrange and, and people still like, you're not a combat veteran. You have never seen combat in the military. Yep, you're right. I never did. but I did over here. So it was a play on words.
With CIA.
Yeah, it was a play on words, and it stirred people's emotions, and it got people pissed off, and it was just like this. It was like this little whirlwind that just got out of control. And yeah, dude, I had death threats and all kinds of stuff. It was really. But I will tell you something funny, and we'll move on. This is actually kind of a funny story. So I was home one day, and my phone rings, and it's a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Hey Joe, are you sitting down?" And I'm like, "No, but do I need to be?" And he's like, "Yeah, probably." I'm like, "Oh, freaking, here we go." He goes, "Get in front of your computer." He goes, "I'm going to send you an email." I'm like, "All right, go ahead." And so I'm sitting there, and this email pops up, and it had an attachment. And I open this attachment, and I'm sitting there, and it's this hot chick. I'm like, "All right, dude, it's this hot girl. What's the big deal?" He's like, "Hey, dumbass, that's you." I'm like, "What?" So I grab my glasses, and I'm like, "Oh my God, dude, they had literally taken my face, my beard off, and Photoshop me on a woman's body and put out there that I used to be a woman."
Come on.
Dude, I was hot, bro.
Wait, you were hot at it, or you were
No,
hot
I was hot as a woman, dude. I was like, wow. I was like, damn. But anyway, dude, it got that bad. It got that bad. Dude, it's so
Back
funny.
in 2015, they were that good with the airbrush?
Bro, I'm telling you, if you would have saw it, it was, I mean, even had the hair, and they could have.
So you're saying you would have fucked yourself?
Man, I'd have tapped it. All right. Next question. But anyway, dude, I laughed my ass off. It was so funny because I thought, oh my God, is this all you have to do with your time?
Apparently.
And it was really funny, but it kind of made things put into perspective,
yes.
Like how desperate are these people?
It's sad, Joe.
Yeah, that you have to Photoshop a picture of me as a one, like, yeah. But I was pretty hot, Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I'm thinking about some of the stuff we got to talk about on the phone that we're not going to talk about today. But what I'll say to people is that it's a gut punch. It's a gut punch in every way. And I had a chance to talk with one of your main witnesses that was going to be used in that lawsuit before they settled it, and just hearing him go through this stuff because he did it with you, and he's just like, this is
they
crazy.
Started attacking everybody, like anybody that I was talking to, and anyway, I forked out a lot of apologies to people, like, hey, I'm sorry, people are contacting you, and it was really again, it was hurtful. I could expect that from a complete stranger, but when it comes internally,
it hurts.
Bro. Yeah. It was really rough.
My buddy Ryan Tate, who I've had in here, he's coming back in as well.
It was intense.
Now that was like right before we got out of Zakawi, right?
Yes, and I chased them too. This was badass. So we have this vehicle checkpoint, and out of nowhere, and it comes in on the radio, and then there are Amtrak tanks, the amphibious tanks, just flying over the Euphrates River.
He's run this organization you and I talked about, VetPaw, which is unbelievable what they do. Mm-hmm. It's a bunch of U.S. veterans who work hand in hand with the African governments. Yeah, you got the mug right now.
Yeah, right there.
Right there. Shout out VetPaw. But they work with the African governments on anti-poaching measures, because poaching is this horrible industry that is funded by foreign governments usually. Sure. They even pay terrorist groups on the ground to do this. It's not just like your regular guys trying to eat for, get food and kill animals to be able to feed their families. It's not that simple. And, he went through very similar things a couple years into VetPaw. And it almost, they're years past that now, but at the time it was a disaster. And some of these guys who make these claims, they're still public, and they don't live in America, which makes it really difficult. Sure. They live in Australia and I think the UK, and they just run around and they say these things, and then people believe it. And what happens is sometimes it's also, I don't think this is relevant to your situation. This was more just a personal attack, but you look at some of these other ones, it's also the enemy funding that stuff. That's very clearly what happened to Ryan. It's some of these interest groups who are upset that Ryan and his team are stopping all this industry from happening. And so they're funding these fucking morons to sling shit online. And like to this day, when it comes up and some of these, I know who these guys are, when some of them say some stuff, Ryan gets like bulldog angry.
Sure he does.
And I get it. Because it's like, look at all the work we're doing, and some asshole can just say something
Sabotage
on Reddit.
The whole thing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very sad.
I mean, I started off, very upset, angry, like why would someone be doing this? And then I'm a Christian, I definitely leaned on my faith a lot, to be honest with you, during that time. Did a lot of praying. And I just, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what, Lord, I'm turning this over to you. Because there's nothing I can do. You can sue people, but at the end of the day, there is a reason why I had to go through that. There was a lesson had to be learned, and I kind of just look at it like that. It was a painful one. I'm here to tell you. What I will say, if who's ever listening to this, I'd like to give just a little advice, and this is my advice. If you ever caught in a situation where that happens to you, where somebody or someone or an entity or a group of people are slandering you and, acting in a libelous fashion, don't wait.
Yeah.
That was a problem. I tried to take the high road and throw out the olive branch and be like, hey, why are you doing this? Let's stop. Let's talk about, and it wasn't working. And it wasn't working. And I waited too long until some damage was done. So my advice to anybody listening is, if you are in that position, pull the trigger immediately. Hire an attorney. Hire an attorney that's capable and understands, especially if you're a public figure, which I am. There's certain things you have to prove, believe it or not. If you're a public figure, there are things you have to prove that other people, and you are a public figure now. Yeah. So understand, Julian, this applies to you. There's things that you have to prove that John Q. Public does not. And it's really crazy. So anyway, and I think your father is an attorney, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I'm sure he can clue you in on it. But anyway, but yeah, anybody listening, just, if you try to handle it as a professional, as an adult, like, hey, look, let's just stop this. And they don't wait. You need to get, in my opinion, a competent legal team together to handle it. Yes. And,
it's sad that you got to say that.
Is it expensive? Yeah. It's not cheap. Good attorneys are expensive, $500 an hour. But if you're forced into that corner, you're really not going to have a choice. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, we got that covered. It's out there. People judge that how you want to do it. But absolutely, I'm glad we now at least have that on the record.
Thank you. And by the way, dude,
it's the least I could do.
And by the way, I should have said this in the beginning. This is a badass studio, dude.
Oh, thank you.
This is really cool. I know this is gonna sound kind of weird. I'm very proud of you. I've watched you now for a while grow your business, and I've watched you're taking those steps, right? And you've gone from a small little studio that was about half this size to a beautiful place. I'm not going to say where you live, but
people know it's in Hoboken.
Yeah, okay, but you just took me for a little tour, and you live in a very beautiful area and a very nice home. But yeah, you're doing good, man.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Look, I say it, and I especially got to say it with people like you. It doesn't happen without guys like you coming in and flying in for the day to do what you did, and now you're here again. I mean, I lean on the fact that I get the opportunity in this job to talk to some really cool people who've done some really cool shit, and I'm fortunate that a lot of them are very open about it when they come in here. We spend 3 hours sometimes. If we do 2 episodes, we spend 6, and they open up, and this doesn't happen without that. But look, I mean, it's cool to see where we're at, because you got to see it towards the end of the last era. There's unfortunately a lot of work to be done here. Obviously, Alessi and me are working 7 days a week these days, but eventually, hopefully, it won't be like that. And there's good little steps along the way so that to have my own place, not in my parents' house like this. Sure. And all the people who helped out building this thing for a couple months, it's gratifying, because it doesn't matter what kind of business you have or what you do.
Right.
you are the people that you are lucky enough to be surrounded with. Hopefully it's lucky to be surrounded with good people, and I'm surrounded by some great people. So
and you're
it's cool.
passionate too, man. It's very obvious. And I when I coach people, I always say, if you are passionate about what you do, it's not work anymore. You want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You want to work till 10 o'clock at night. You know what you do. You obviously you love what you do. You're very good at it. So, yeah.
Did you ever run into a situation where you started to feel like something you loved became work?
Oh yeah.
How did you get out of that?
So I think I talked about this on my last podcast. Between my Marine Corps career and my Army career, I was a stockbroker, and so, which is something I never even thought about doing because like I did really shitty in school, but I had a very good tutor. And I thought it was really sexy in the beginning. Like, wow, like a white collar guy, I was a Marine corporal, whoop-de-doo, and now I'm going to be a stockbroker. So I thought it was sexy and cool. And that faded very, very quickly. Even though I was making pretty good money, like 70 grand a year-ish, 75 grand a year for back then in the early 80s. That was pretty freaking good money. And I was in my early 20s. But it became work because I got to tell you, that job was a grind.
Yeah.
You had to hand dial phone numbers and you would not be able to leave unless you made 400 calls.
Yeah.
And the branch manager sat at a desk on his machine and could tell you, hey, you got another 50 calls to make. You got another 30. It was a grind. I'll be honest with you. As far as like a mentally exhausting job, that is like right close to what I used to do with the agency. It was exhausting.
Comparing the two. Wow.
Yeah, dude, because it's a different kind of anxiety, but it was just like because
but you didn't like it.
No, and you got to remember too, man, every month you started over.
Yeah.
Every month you started at zero and you had a quota. And if you didn't hit it, you got 1 month of like, you're on notice. If you didn't hit your quota next month, you were fired.
So it sounds like in your example right there, the way you fixed it is you left and you went back to what you know.
Yes.
You went back to something you love. Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder about it though with, and I guess you didn't run into this. I wonder about it though with things you do love, like when it becomes a little bit of work. Because I'm in that phase a little bit right now. Mm-hmm. This is the fun part when I get to sit with people. The process to even getting to this part though has gotten so tedious.
Sure.
And I'm over it. I mean, Alessia, how many frames am I going to fuck before this is, I don't have to edit anymore. You know what I mean? And he gets it. I mean, he works his ass off with me now too.
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
he gets it. But it gets tough sometimes.
People don't understand. It's like what I used to do for a living. Everybody thinks it's bang, bang, shoot 'em up. Dude, that was the last 2 seconds of what I used to do. What people don't see is all the work from case officers and intel people did for it could be years to lead you to someone, just like what you guys do, just like the show I was on. If I'm not mistaken, I remember them telling me it took 40 hours of actual video for a 40-minute show.
Crazy.
Think about all the editing.
Oh my
That's
God.
the grind. That's the grind.
Those guys are amazing. The people who do that stuff, unbelievable.
That's the grind. Doing this is great. This is fun. We're having a good time and talking, but it's the back end stuff that'll just kill you. I mean, as a broker, that became work after a while. I just didn't enjoy it anymore. Right. I do like teaching, obviously with my company, I like to teach, firearms training and tactics and stuff like that. Sometimes, depending on who my students are, it becomes work. For example, I taught a class not long ago. There was 10 people in the class and there was one guy who self-admittedly had never shot a pistol, but like maybe 10 times. And I like training guys like that. They have no bad habits. But this guy was so scared. He was visibly shaking, shooting. I'm like, dude, relax. Like I had to concentrate on him so much just from a safety standpoint. He wasn't flagging people and keeping his finger off the trigger. It became work. It wasn't fun anymore. I couldn't keep the momentum of the class going because this guy, now I put him all the way on the end, but that's when it becomes work. Like, man, if this guy wasn't here, we could have done so much more. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's vitally important, for anyone that's listening. If you've got a career, doesn't matter what it is, but you're passionate about it, you got the world by the short hairs, man.
Yeah.
Because you want to wake up
You're
early.
lucky.
Yeah, dude. That's hard to find. Yeah. Dude, it's not easy. I mean, even when I was doing what I was doing with the agency, like I was passionate about the job, and it was a job, understand, but I was very passionate about it. And when you're passionate, you can perform at very high levels, right? And they needed you to perform at very high levels. You couldn't, like, mediocrity there wasn't happening, dude. Like you needed to shine. And I think I even mentioned on the last one, like that, when I was doing my interview, this guy, Ron, he goes, do you think you're a good operator? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm, pretty good. And he's like, we don't need good. And that kind of blew me away. Like, wow. Okay. I don't know what else to say, but,
yeah.
But I think passion for a career, and what you do is like, I think that's what separates the rock stars from the groupies, man. People that make a little bit of money compared to people who are ultra successful. And bro, I don't judge or measure a person by the size of their wallet. Like I know a lot of wealthy people that I wouldn't trade their life with mine for all the gold in Fort Knox. You know what I mean? They may have a lot of money, but they've got highly dysfunctional families and
right.
Blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on.
Yep.
But
hey guys, if you have a second, please be sure to share this episode around on social media and with your friends, whether it's Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, doesn't matter. It's all a huge help. It gets new eyeballs on the show, and it allows us to grow and survive. So thank you to all of you who have already been doing that, and thank you to all of you who are going to do so now.
I think those that are out there that are passionate about their work, there is a huge intrinsic value for that. I know a lot of people make a lot of money. Matter of fact, I have a friend of mine. He owns his own company. I've never asked him how much he makes, but if I were to guess, he probably makes $4 to $6 million a year in his pocket.
That'll do.
In his pocket.
That'll do.
Miserable. Guy hasn't been on a vacation in 10
That's the
years.
problem. That's the problem, man. What's the trade-off there? No good.
No good at all. And he doesn't eat right. I mean, he doesn't exercise. And he's got all. I'm like, dude, why don't you hire a trainer and a cook? I mean, he's got money. Hire a cook. Mm-hmm. Go to the gym. Hire a personal trainer. No, he won't take a vacation. You know why he won't take a vacation? Oh man, they'll rob me blind here. I'm like, are you telling me you can't hire one person, pay them a really nice salary, so you can get away and go enjoy your life? You're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that was something
Right?
in my last career. Working on Wall Street, we worked in the private bank, so we dealt with the big time money people, and there were some people who did it right and who lived happy. I don't want to be all negative here.
Right.
There were some clients who were very wealthy who, I don't want to say they were carefree, but a couple of them were, and they had good families, great lives, good
Right.
balance, good everything, great perspective. But I got a chance to learn not just from them, but the many people who were not like that.
Right.
And I will tell you, the phrase "mo money, mo problems" is very true. And it doesn't sound as good, but I would add in "mo money, mo invented problems." People get more money, they invent issues for themselves.
Interesting.
They invent struggles that don't need to be there. They let money get in the middle of family. They let money get in the middle of friends. They let money get in the middle of it drives everything they do. And one of the things that I think was awesome about me having that job was that I, at a young age, coming out of college, when you're unbelievably impressionable, I got to see that. Before I never had a chance to make money in my career, right? So I still, to this day, because any money we've made here has gone back into this place.
Sure.
I still have never had money in my pocket, but if I'm successful, I know that's going to be a point where I do. I have a lot of thoughts about how to not change.
Right.
And I don't know, but I don't know if I would have had that if I hadn't got to see it up close like that. And so, you're talking about a friend right there. That's someone you get to see up close a bit. It's a good example for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm not rich. I live comfortably. I've made some really good money in my past, and I've lost money in my past through bad investments. And 100% my fault. didn't do the proper due diligence, took a risk where maybe if I had $1 in the bank, I put 80 cents of it in something, which was right, and it went kaput. And so, I would caution people. I mean, again, I'm talking about this, but money is very easy to lose,
Yes,
and very difficult to make.
Yes,
And everybody, that old saying, be at the right place at the right time. Let me tell you something, that's complete bullshit. It's not right place, right time. It's right place, right time, right market, right product, right partners, right amount of money. Like all of these stars have to line up, because I have been at the right place at the right time and it still didn't work out.
Yeah.
Still didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, business is, sure. If I had failed businesses, yep, sure have. If I had businesses that have made me money, yeah, sure have. But the difference, and we were just talking about this, the two businesses I'm thinking of, I wasn't passionate about. It made sense. Like, yep, that makes sense. But I didn't have the right partners, and you didn't calculate the right enough money for the marketing piece, and down it went. But what I've been passionate about, like what I do now, as a matter of fact, I want to thank you for something, by the way. I don't know if I've even told you this, but like a gentleman that lives in Dubai saw this last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and here you go. Here's a perfect example. Watched it, didn't know really who I was, didn't know anything about Ground Branch, but he had been contacting all kind of different companies, guys that are former Delta dudes and SEAL Team 6 guys and this, that, and the other thing. And he watched the podcast and he's like, what is, never heard of Ground Branch. And this guy's very, very smart, and he started Googling it like, wow, this is the guy I want to train with. Well, anyway, he ended up contacting me and he flew from Dubai to train with me one-on-one.
Wow. Now, what kinds of things are you putting him through in training?
So he had a very specific menu. I call it.
Menu.
Yeah, well, it was, man. He actually he kind of told me like, I want to know this, this, and this. And I said, yeah. And he asked me how long it was going to take, and I told him. But no, he wanted a very in-depth course of pistol, carbine. He wanted to understand, how to bug out. He wanted to understand, and this guy travels extensively through the Middle East, understand. So he goes to some pretty dicey places. He wanted to understand how to spot surveillance, stuff like that, some tradecraft stuff. And obviously,
you had to take him into the city for that, right?
Oh yeah. We spent 2 days in a mall.
You live out in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We spent the majority of the time at a 1,000-acre facility that I train at. And then a few days in a city, actually in a big shopping mall. But
now, how would you do that? Like, because you're a civilian now doing this. Like, how you take them to a mall? What do you set up? Like a drill? Do you have people that work with you that you have as like dummy plants there? How does that work?
Correct on all aspects. Huh. So I had role players. You're getting it, bro.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
You're getting it.
There's hope for me.
No, you're right. So I had role players. And I factored this into the cost. I told him, like, do you want to do this from 1 to 10? I basically said, this is what you're going to get for a 1, and this is what you're going to get for a 10. And he's like, I want the 10.
He's from Dubai. I mean,
yeah, a very successful guy. Yeah, very, very smart, athletic, just a good dude. We got along very, very well. So I told him, we're going to have role players. And I just kind of ran it similar to the surveillance course that I went through when I was with Ground Branch. And so we did some time on foot. And then we did some time in vehicles. Obviously, surveillance in vehicles is much more difficult because it's very easy to lose somebody in a vehicle. Like if you get caught behind 2 cars and they get a soft yellow and they go through it, you're screwed. And right, that's why you need multiple cars and stuff. Anyway, but we did the foot piece in this huge mall, massive mall, really, really big mall, crowded, and I started them off at a crawl, walk, run pace where I made it very obvious. And then I kind of backed it up a little bit and like, all right, now, and backed it up a little bit until it got to a point where at the very end, he couldn't tell who was following him. And I'm like, if somebody is actually good at this, to be honest with you, if they're well trained, you're not going to know.
You're not going to know.
You're not going to know. And so, but how often is that going to happen? It's probably not. It's going to be somebody that just targeted you because of how you look, or maybe the watch you're wearing or the jewelry. We're like, hey, that guy's rich, which he didn't look that way, by the way. He looked very nondescript. He did not look like a wealthy individual, which was great. Yeah, he's very smart. He and obviously he's got the money, but he just would just dress kind of like you, just very nondescript. And so he wanted to know how it would go down. And I told him, like, they're probably going to survey you for a while, get a pattern of life, watch where you go, find a weak link, and then hem you up somewhere. So
it's crazy how similarly when I've had both you and Shawn in the studio, almost like back to back. Yeah, we did. Yeah, I recorded those back to back. It's crazy how similarly you guys describe surveillance and how you both said it the same way. You'd never know.
Yeah. Well, understand Shawn, and I've never met Shawn. He was in a very, very high level protection unit, GRS. Never served with them. I knew who they were. That's the top of the food chain when it comes to doing protection details. I'm just going to tell you right now, because the people they were protecting were at high risk in high risk areas.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt Shawn has received some very, very high level surveillance training. Because
MI6 actually trained him first.
There you go.
Which is crazy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me one bit. So, and that was a very important piece of what they did. What I did, they just wanted you to be well-rounded, but literally I've only done the surveillance piece one time in my entire career. One time.
That's it?
Yes, sir. One time.
Can you say roughly where that was?
I can't say where it was, but it was the longest op I had been on.
Was this in a civilian territory or a combat territory?
It was not in a combat area. It wasn't like Iraq or Afghanistan.
All right, I'm saying it was Greece. What's your guess, Alessi?
Italy.
Italy? All right, we're in the same part of the map.
I'm not saying two cool places for sure. But it would be a place that you would go to on like a honeymoon. Like it was that kind of a place.
We're
so I was going to say, yeah, it was pretty good. But anyway, it was just because the way this mission came about and the way they wanted it conducted, that we actually got to do the surveillance piece.
Oh, so you're on a team with this one?
Yeah. So, and again, don't want to get into TTPs and how we did it, but that training came into play because I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't have known whether to shit or wind my watch. Like it would have been like, holy Jesus, this is a lot more complicated than you'd think it is, especially in a real world environment. You can simulate it all you want and you can, but there's always those factors, that Murphy law, right? That just pops up and you're like, oh, don't remember that class. Like, hold on. Let me break out the manual for a second. That's where your critical thinking skills have to come into play.
Was this the type of situation where you're trying to surveil a person or people for their pattern of life to see what they do, or to see if they're going to go somewhere advantageous for you guys to make a move on turning them or something like that?
It was one person. We were to establish a pattern of life, see who they were associating with, because of who he was and what he was doing. And then, if the opportunity presented itself, they wanted him to be, captured. And we did.
Shit got real. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so but what was really cool
do you
about
use chloroform when you do that?
No? No, man.
No.
It's called a baseball bat. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, that's one thing.
But dude, you know what's so funny?
Before I die.
But you know what's so funny? He knew the gig was up. Like it was almost like that.
Oh, he held out his hands?
Not quite, but it was damn near like, oh man. Like you have to understand something, bro. These people that the agency goes after and other soft units, they know they're hunted people, right? They're not good people. These are evil people that know that they're on somebody's list somewhere is looking for them. So when the gig is up, a lot of times the look on their face is like I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. And that was this guy. He knew, like,
Was he just like an international criminal or like a government person of like a dictatorship kind of deal?
He was. So the term facilitator. I don't know if you ever heard of that before.
Yeah.
He was a very high level facilitator. That's all I can tell you. Very high level. And they'd been looking for this guy for a long, long time. He was very elusive.
Don't tell me this was Victor Boot.
No.
Okay. All right. That would have been
But
creepy.
the thing about this guy, though, you got to remember, and I think I said this the last time we spoke, these are very smart people. They may be terrorists, but some of these people are very educated. They've got advanced degrees. They're not stupid. They understand tradecraft. They understand they're being hunted. They understand, what they need to do to kind of screw up their pattern of life. So you can't find that weak spot.
Right.
And I'm trying to think. We were there 10 weeks. 10 weeks.
You're surveilling them for 10 weeks.
From the time we got in country, we got to a safe house, which we moved several times. Yeah, it was about 10 weeks. Yeah, it was a long time. But I tell you what, I got more experience out of that op doing the whole thing from soup to nuts. Not like, hey, we know where Julian's at, go get him. Well, okay, that's not very hard. I'm not trying to downplay it, but like,
you know where I am.
Yeah, there's his house right there. There's his compound right there.
I don't have a compound for the record.
Right. You do have a house in Beverly Hills, though. You showed me, right?
No.
You're so full.
I wish I could. That'd be great.
It's coming, brother.
I'd love
it's
to
coming.
have that.
But no, it was really cool because you got to see how the whole thing like laid out. Instead of just seeing the last piece of it, I got to see from the very beginning all the way to the end, and I only got to do it once.
How do you know when to go in? Because you said it's 10 weeks. I would imagine you had eyes on them pretty early. You probably could have taken them earlier than you did. How do you know when?
We wanted, well, not we, our leadership wanted him to be seen and meet two people specifically. And it just took time for them to so they could PID them like, yep, that's that. Oh, that's them too. Like there was a method to the madness, so to speak. Oh yeah, we could have hemmed this guy up 2 weeks into it. Yeah. Because remember, dude, there's a thing called tactical patience, right? It's a great term, and you got to know when to kind of put the brakes on and go, okay, just stop and just watch, right? Just hold on, like everybody take a knee and chill. All right, now move. Like, and that's something that I learned over time. I didn't even know what that was when I was in the Marines and SF, like tactical patience. What the fuck? I learned it there. That's what guys that are really, really good, they can, instead of just rushing into something and just, overwhelming force, that's great at certain times, but there's a time we got to put the brakes on to go, all right, just slow down for a second.
Yeah.
Let this unfold. Let it unfold. Let it unfold. Okay, ready. And that is a learned skill. And that comes with a lot of maturity. And I didn't have that until, to be quite honest with you, the very latter end of my career. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get that good. And I was just lucky I was around a bunch of dudes that already had it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, like I was telling you before, it's like playing basketball with a bunch of, Michael Jordans or LeBron James.
Yes.
It's like every freaking guy, Michael Jordan, like, and I loved it because it just upped my game. And you know what the sad thing is, and when it comes to training and stuff, it's a lot of guys just can't park their freaking ego. Like, I don't want to go to the range with this guy because he can outshoot me. Well, pick his brain and find out why.
Yeah.
Like I got a chance to train with Jerry Barnhart when I was in Ground Branch. I trained with the guy for 2 weeks. It was 1 week of pistol, 1 week of carbine. And Jerry Barnhart, back in the day, he was like a 10-time world IPSC champion, right? I think his nickname was Jerry the Burner Barnhart. unbelievable shooter. Like, couldn't compete with the guy. But when you have the opportunity to train with a practitioner, not a hobbyist, right? And that's why I kind of have a hard on for guys online that quote that they can teach stuff. They're not practitioners, they're hobbyists. And we can get into that if you want.
Yeah, can you explain how
Absolutely.
you do the two?
But I got to train with Jerry Barnhart, and, you know, this guy took my shooting to the next level. Why? Because he was just that freaking good. That's how I got my draw under. Yep, there he is right there. That's him. Yes, sir. That's him.
Okay.
Super, super nice guy. Very humble.
He was in the military before?
I don't believe Jerry was. He was just a world-class pistol shooter.
Wow.
And the thing that I respected about him even more so is that he was so good at conveying this here. Like, I know
for
a lot
people just listening, not watching. What are you doing?
So you can be a really good shooter, a really good tennis player, a really good golfer, really good, world class. But if you can't verbalize how you're that good, you're basically useless as an instructor. And I know guys like that.
Right.
I know guys that are amazing operators. They don't have the patience or the ability to verbalize what you need to do to get that good. He was a master at it. That's where I got my draw under a second, going to his course.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was under a second. And, you know, to this day, I don't shoot enough. I still can't break a second. I can do like 1.2, 1.3.
That's unbelievably fast, though.
That's respectable. But when you're under a second, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, if I tried that, someone's dying.
It's pretty fast.
Not who I'm trying to shoot either.
But you got to remember, though, but what you have to remember is you have to train with a guy like that to get that good. I can't train with a guy at my level or lower. I got to train with a dude like that. And so people that are listening, who, whatever your sport or whatever it is you want to be good at, seek these people out. Seek these people out, and that's how you're going to really get good. And for the guys listening, park your freaking ego, okay? Don't be like, well, you know, yeah, this guy's a much better shooter than me, and I don't want to embarrass me. No, I want you to embarrass me. Like, I used to, look, I'm not an MMA guy. I know the basics. I used to grapple with this guy that weighed $160. I'm 200. I was much stronger than him, and he could literally beat me, and I'm not joking, with one hand.
Oh, yeah. It's skill.
Absolutely. And I love to train with this guy because he's like, Joe, you're trying to overpower me because you're a strong dude, but it's all technique. No, it don't. And I love training with that guy because it was very humbling, right? Those are the people that I, to this day, seek out to train with.
Yeah.
I want to train with people that make me look like an amateur.
Did you run in when you're in Ground Branch? So I know it's a small exclusive team, but I think you may have even said it a few minutes ago. So many guys had this mentality, but you had to run into some guys who were just totally driven by the ego. No, even in that.
Excuse me. Yeah.
And how were they if they're like that? How are they so effective at their job to be in that position? They're just built a little different.
So you got to kind of like separate it. You could have this giant ego, and look, yes, and I think any soft guy out there that's listening right now, if they don't agree with me, they're in denial. When you get into the special operations community, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Ground Branch, whatever, you're dealing with not everybody, but you're dealing with some individuals that have a big ego. Raging type A man, you know, ultra, you know, driven, you know, very competitive. You know, I get it. I wasn't one of them, only because of, you know, just the way I was brought up. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But yes, there were guys I worked with that had big egos, but they were still good operators. You know what I mean? These are the guys that, you know, like if I'm going through a door with somebody, yeah, that's the guy I want to be with me. You know what I mean? Having an ego, to me, is exactly what we were just talking about. The guys that had the egos, in my opinion, thought they were at the top of the food chain. And maybe they were there, but to the true professional, you can always get better.
Yeah.
You can't say, I know it all. I'm as strong as I can get. I'm running as fast as I can. That's bullshit. 1% better every day. 1%, 1%, 1%. That's what I kind of consider ego, is when somebody can look at you in the eye and be like, I can't get any better. That's ego. Everybody can get better, right? Everybody.
Yeah.
And so, and it was, you just dealt with it.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.